Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit for Thursday, June 20th, 2024. Coming to you from our studio at Techtown, I am Jer Stays, and across the table from me is somebody on a Thursday? Devin O'Reilly, how are you?
Well, a little behind the scenes, right? Thursday is a good day to talk about Friday. So I am here, Mr. TGIF.
Yeah. Well, we've got a bunch of stories, and that's why we're going to be doing a little bit of like a turn and burn and getting some stuff out there because there's been a lot to talk about, on both east and west sides of Woodward.
East and west sides, all sides of Woodward. We got a little bit of fun, a little bit of serious. I think it's going to be a good episode.
For sure, and it's a pretty newsy episode. There was a big storm overnight. We're looking at some big cuts at Stellantis, and a big step forward for funding for transit is in danger, not from Republicans, but from within the Democratic Party. But first, Devin O'Reilly, where have we been?
Well, Jer, as we've talked about the last couple episodes, I am just back into the full about towning, and there is a lot going on about town, let me say. So this morning, I popped into a place I've been tracking for a long time, and we brought it up before, the former founder space in Midtown. That was just a great bones, great space. It's becoming Elephant & Co., which is the Eastern Market Brewing Company's kind of arm of their operation, and they're opening this up in phases. So I've been really itching to get in there and see the space, and I popped in this morning, and the cafe is open. So they've got coffee, they've got Duped Donuts, which are the 100% vegan donuts.
I've been to a Dupe location before, a couple of them actually.
Yeah, there's the one I'm familiar with is downtown on Broadway. This might end up being their flagship. I'm getting the sense of it, though, because it's big. You don't remember that space. It's huge.
Yeah, and, Founders was something that a lot of people visited, but it closed around a cloud of a lot of things, and it's been sitting vacant since.
And EMBC just does a fantastic job. I mean, I love Ferndale Project. I love the Eastern Market location. They do so much good stuff. And here's something else. So the cafe was open, and that takes up kind of the front space, right there off of Charlotte. That takes some of that space. There's also, though, a huge space for what's going to be a bar with pizza and things like that. But it's going to be the self-serve taps. So I saw this wall of like little interfaces, look like iPads on the wall that are going to be all the different self-serve taps. So there's going to be quite a few options to choose from, Jer.
Well, I remember seeing those at, I think it's called Lincoln Tap in Royal Oak.
Yeah.
That is also a space that they're investing in and doing things near downtown Royal Oak, because I think in a lot of ways, like this robotic everything's kind of the future.
It really is. So you're gonna. I think they said the next weekend is when they're going to open the bar space. But for the cafe space, they're already implementing some robotics in that way too. I was introduced to a robot barista.
Wow, a real thing. Like this is.
Yeah, it was called Jarvis, and I was told it's the only one in Michigan right now.
Because I have not seen anything like that around here. I think I've seen some when I've traveled a bit.
It's really cool, but I want to caution people, ease your nerves a little bit. It's not like I didn't talk to humans. There was humans working there. There was someone who an actual barista who got my donut and my cold brew. There was a manager there. This is not like, oh no, the people are gone. It just happened that Jarvis was over there moving around, and I asked, like, what is this? Jarvis is going to really help them make the lattes. So if you order lattes, it can do like basically everything. It can do a little drawing on top, little latte art, all that stuff. So it's not like this is completely replacing a human who's working there. There's still going to be a human working there. But this seems like a really cool little thing. Definitely Instagrammable, as we always talk about.
Well, and I think we're going to see more and more of these. I think we are seeing more and more of it, even though there was a report that McDonald's was kind of stopping their AI test with their IBM partnership for ordering. They said, yes, we're going to still do this. We're just going to do it in a different way. I think with labor, with everything else, this is whether you like it or not, it's here and it's the future.
Yeah, you know what? I liken it to a lot with the car, the autonomous cars, where even now when we talk about autonomous cars, there's still someone driving in the car. There's still someone sitting in the car while the autonomous car is driving. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of where we're at in this kind of testing out robots and AI in the service industry. Is like, it's not necessarily replacing anyone yet. There's still going to have to be people there, humans that you interact with. But these machines are kind of going to be slowly stepping in and seeing where they can help out, let's say.
Well, I think it's really about assistance as opposed to replacement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So taking the job that you have now and then enhancing it or using those tools to make it easier.
Yeah, efficient, easier. Yeah, if you want to look at it in a positive way, it's like maybe it's not necessarily replacing anybody, but maybe it makes the lines shorter and you don't have to wait for your coffee because there's a person who's taking your orders and then a robot barista who's just quickly whipping them up, and it just makes everyone's job easier.
So you brought a treat with you.
I did. I brought a Duped donut.
Why don't you show your camera?
This is very, I mean, I had to go with the chocolate and the sprinkles, right?
Okay.
I mean, a classic of Duped Donuts. So, I mean, cheers, Jared. You want to try it?
All right, let's give this a shot here.
100% vegan, wouldn't know it. Delicious.
Soft.
Not the cake, not the, whatever the opposite of the cake donut is. I know it's like
Yeast and cake are like the two big things. I am much more of a yeast person. I'm old school with my donuts.
it melts. It's more like the buttery. It melts in your mouth, you know?
Like I get that cake is sometimes easier to produce and whatever, but I'm all about the yeast, and I always have been. I think I always will be.
I agree. So get yourself a Duped donut. They had probably 6 or 7 different flavors. Again, 100% all vegan. I know my wife tries to stay vegan, so I totally get it, and she's gonna love that this exists. And you know what, Jer? In about a week or so, you can get your coffee, you can get your donuts, and then you can also get some beer and some pizza. Just a one-stop shop.
And it's a heck of an outdoor space over there, if I remember too.
Oh, the patio is beautiful. And they
once
kept
this
all that.
heat wave clears a little bit, because it's been a crazy one.
You wouldn't want to be outside right now, would you?
No. But next week.
Yes, next week, go there, enjoy it, grab some coffee, grab some beer, grab some pizza. I think it's going to be the place to be. You're certainly going to see me there. Again, we talked about kid-friendly places. Founders was a great place to bring a little kid. I think this one's also going to be that. EMBC they're a kid-friendly operation, frankly, knowing what I know about like Ferndale Project and other places. So very excited for this. Wasn't the only place I visited though. I also went to somewhere we've talked about on the show, the Lone Goat, the British pub that is opening up in the bottom of the Metropolitan Building, which houses the Element Hotel. Also, for those trying to orient yourself, the Monarch Club is on the roof of this building. The ground floor has been kind of working out different spaces. They've had like a Somerset collection pop up, but the west corner of this building has always been vacant because from the beginning, the ownership group envisioned a British style pub. And so this has been in the works for a long time. It is finally opened, and it is delightful. It's open for lunch. So, checks that box for me. Opens at 11 every day into the night. It is very traditional Irish British pub, I should say. More of a British. But their beverage program is very much that. I mean, you've got Old Speckled Hen. You've got Hogarden, Smithwick's, Chimay, Stiegel Rattler. Like you have like some of the Boddingtons, like you have some of the real beers that you can't really get in like a normal place downtown that are very traditional ales and lagers and pilsners and things like that. And then they do have a full cocktail program. So they have stuff that like leans into the doers. So the Rusty Nail, Rob Roy, I think that gin, Pim's Cup is another popular item on the menu. And then full food program. So they've got fish and chips. They have shepherd's pie. They have beer cheese. They've got a seafood soup with I think some cod. It's really, really good. Very, very of the atmosphere type of menu. Very of the British Isles type of menu. So they definitely leaned into being very authentic. It does feel like you are stepping into another place in time or another place on the map here. So. Hey, another place. I'm just really excited, Jer, because now I know 2 places that we're talking about today that you will definitely find me haunting.
We find Devin O'Reilly everywhere. He is within the spirit of Detroit.
I am in these streets. literally, Jer.
I do want to acknowledge really quick for the people out there that there's about 40,000 people without power right now. A strong storm kind of hit that I-696 corridor pretty bad. Berkeley, Southfield. I saw some crazy videos of houses being destroyed, like giant trees in yards. So for our friends up there in Berkeley, Southfield, Oak Park, that kind of area, just wanted to shout out. We hear you. It sucks. I really hope you get your power back soon because this heat is something else. I know that municipalities up that way, check with your city, are doing cooling centers. So I wanted to shout that out really quick.
And we're not done with it, Jer. When it gets this hot, these pop-up storms seem to happen and you never know where they're going to be. They're so isolated. In Dearborn, we got nothing. I was downtown all day yesterday. saw not a drop of rain. So they're just so isolated. You really just have to be on guard. And unfortunately, like you said, this is going to continue through the weekend into Monday. Hopefully it's over. So you're basically, yes, on guard. I hate to say it, but there's probably going to be more people who end up losing power.
I'm crossing my fingers that this is done by Monday for the big Detroit fireworks that are coming.
Yes. I mean, hey, we needed to clear for the fireworks. I'm with you there.
Let's get into some stories. Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares announced a massive cost-cutting initiative that could lead to a lot of job cuts, thousands locally, honestly, particularly at their North American headquarters in Auburn Hills. That office tower that famously Lee Iacocca built with the profits of the minivan. Do you remember minivans?
Yes, I grew up riding in minivans. My parents had one. It was an Aerostar, I believe, was our minivan.
Okay.
Choice. Ford family, of course.
Well, of course, Dearborn. That's how that goes. But this is going to be a pretty big deal because the company's looking to cut costs by 30%. This is ahead of competition. It's already happening in other markets and will be here in the United States from Chinese automakers that bring things at a lot lower cost. Word is that Auburn Hills headquarters could be put up for sale, which does not surprise me because of the lack of need of office space. And there was contract negotiations in the last contract talking about closing that Auburn Hills facility. So the writing's been kind of on the wall with this. This is interesting because, I've gotten a strain of reaction since I put this out on social media. Look, Chrysler's been behind the ball on a few things, especially EVs and hybrids. And I think they have a lot of catch up to do, especially under their new CEO. And I also want to talk about the fact that, honestly, they're headquartered out of the Netherlands at this point. And is there really like a Detroit 3 or even a Detroit 2.5? Is it just the Detroit 2 now?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking in hearing this is like the first time we've heard from Stellantis in a long time is bad news. And it does feel like we have a big two, really. I mean, Ford and GM have really kept themselves in the news for all sorts of reasons. I mean, Ford might not even be for the cars. GM for maybe their real estate moves, perhaps, but also some of what they're doing with the cars and the EVs and the shift to all that. You don't hear anything from Stellantis about what's going on in terms of their presence here. Like you said, I mean, they're out in Auburn Hills at this point. I mean, I know I gave GM crap for, doubling down on the tech center in Warren because I'm just going to, a staunch advocate for putting people downtown. But Stellantis is out in Auburn Hills in the middle of nowhere, basically.
I mean, but there's still thousands of jobs involved.
There are.
I have a lot of things with that. There's going to be a lot of supply chain hits involved in this, though I do wonder, there is the Chrysler House downtown. Sergio Marchionne, the previous CEO, rumoredly really liked working downtown. They have 2 floors of that building. I wonder if they still have some offices in North America, do they consolidate a little bit downtown and do something similar to General Motors and kind of have a flagship? Because there's no reason for that giant facility anymore in Auburn Hills.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see that happening because nothing that they have done indicates that they are interested in, planting a flag in downtown Detroit, at least a public flag. Nothing I've seen indicates that would be the case.
Okay, so have we seriously heard from Chrysler or Jeep or any of those things from a Civic perspective since the M&M commercial? Like, I'm just going to be real. I'm sure there's a few projects here and there, but I feel like of all the automakers that have a larger presence here, I feel like I hear more from Toyota.
Yeah, probably. I mean, certainly GM and Ford. And, you can be snarky about Ford all you want and say like cars versus marketing. But what the train station, if nothing else, it was a huge marketing boon for them. It got their name out there. It got tons of positive public sentiment. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything like that from Stellantis. And maybe they are. I mean, maybe they are, doing a lot of work, but it's not really crossing my purview. So they're just kind of a quiet player here in the space. And maybe that's by design. They kind of feel more like a foreign auto company at this point than, one of our domestic big 3.
Well, and to be fair, there's a lot of foreign automakers that have pretty decent presences here because of the engineering talent.
It's more, again, Jerry, a quiet. I mean, I'm not saying that Stellantis isn't doing anything here, but it's certainly more quiet than anything else. Maybe more on the engineering side, not making huge splashes. I mean, Jeep is still. I think that when people talk about Stellantis, if you had to say like, hey, what are they known for? I mean, Jeep is still very popular here. There's a lot of Jeeps here. My wife drives a Jeep. Like that is still a iconic brand.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that when it comes to Chrysler and Jeep and all of these that there could be a lot more done? I mean, if they really want to say that, like, hey, we're going to be like the Detroit 2.5 or Detroit 3 and kind of reclaim that, or do you think they just don't care?
I mean, I don't. I don't want to believe that they don't care, but again, anything that I've seen gives me that indication. But I do think there's still, there's still definitely room to kind of plant the flag, and that's what it would take. I mean, put your money, put your bodies where your mouth is, and I would say plant a flag downtown. So maybe this is me unabashedly saying, what would I like to see? I think what you said should happen. Like I said, I'm cynical about it. I don't think it will, but that's what should happen. They should go into Chrysler House, or they should get themselves a building downtown. Hey, I know there's some space to the rent center available. Get yourself.
It would
a
be the
building
third
downtown.
automaker because it was built by Ford.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Bring
that'd
this
be
full
hilarious.
circle. Go get you a building downtown, plant your flag, put some workers there, and at least that's something. And then you can start to build out your community presence from there.
Now, you work a lot around the mobility space and things. This specter of Chinese automakers, I don't think that like people out there understand like how much of a shift that could be happening out there, especially China through Mexico, right? It's not that they're going to build it in China and send it here. It's that they're going to use, NAFTA, things like that, have plants in Mexico and then sell through here. And it's going to make a big impact in the mobility space. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, Jer, this gets really into the weeds of like the legalities and the trade agreements, things like that. I mean, clearly the U.S. automakers are trying to keep China at bay by every means necessary in terms of making it more difficult for them to come play in our market and get product into our market. We are trying to keep them away because one thing you're never going to compete with China on is price, right? I mean, you're not going to undercut China in price.
Well, and automakers know that a lot of people out there are frustrated with the cost of cars right now.
Right. So you've got BYD offering a $16,000, I think, in China. BYD offering a $16,000 EV that basically could compete on everything. Quality I won't get into. I haven't sat in one, but usually I don't mind saying this as we sit here in Detroit, Michigan. The quality of the Chinese cars is lackluster, subpar compared to.
On the other hand, if you're spending 16 or 20 grand.
Exactly. You get what you pay for. So that's the thing that is a little scary is China will always beat the U.S. on price. It's always been about, for us, the status of our brands, the legacy of our brands, and hopefully the quality, although unfortunately that's not always the case, but we like to think that we are still building the best quality products. That's debatable, I guess, but I like to think that we are.
Well, let's talk about another story really quick, as this time it is not Republicans in the way of transit funding, but two progressive Democrats. They are looking at potentially blocking over $2 billion for public transit projects tied to billions for corporate incentives over 10 years. The public perception of subsidies for larger corporations has changed quite a bit, and also how these things are rolling out. So this was originally the SOAR Fund. Now I believe it's going to be called the Make It in Michigan Fund. And this is for $6 billion over 10 years. There'll be $250 million annually from corporate income taxes to attract other businesses. So using corporate income tax to attract other businesses. It would include $200 million for transit and mobility projects, $150 million for housing programs, because, well, we need housing in a lot of ways. Even though with the population issues, we are still underbuilding housing. It's part of why costs are so high. But a pair of Democratic representatives, Dylan Wigala and Emily Divendorf, oppose these bills. Wigala directly said in a piece for Axios that he hopes the plan dies. So is transit funding going to die this time at the hands of Democrats?
I sure hope not. But man, this is really unfortunate. And you and I both had the same thought. The saying, "Don't let perfect be the enemy of good," and that's what it seems like these two are getting hung up on. There's so much good stuff in this. There's so much good stuff in this. Transit funding, housing, but they seem so hung up on the mechanism. And is it a perfect mechanism? No, but there is no perfect mechanism to properly capture tax dollars, to incentivize. Yes, you still have to, within all the good stuff, you still are going to have to incentivize big business to invest in the state by giving them tax breaks and incentives. I'm sorry. That's just the way it works. And, I just don't buy their excuses of, well, this has been shown to not be successful. Well, when we're getting big projects, taken out from under us all the time, the reason the storefront was even established is because we were losing these massive plants to Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, things like that. And we were like, you know what? We can't be losing these. This is bad for Michigan. We need to be building more. We need to be bringing more jobs here. And I know that people will try and critique and say, well, the dollar, the comparison of how many jobs it brings versus how much we invest doesn't really make economical sense. But at the end of the day, you're bringing jobs here. I think it's a good mechanism. It's not the perfect mechanism. It's a good mechanism. And for these two to basically just kind of thumb their noses at $1 billion plus for transit funding, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, this was actually talked a little bit about by Representative McFall on this show, also supported by McMurrow. I mean, this is exactly it. This is the edges of our political spectrum holding reasonable things hostage. I am so personally disappointed in the Democratic Party right now. They need to take these guys and be like, all right, what needs to happen? Like I think about when I interviewed Carl Levin, right? Former Senator Carl Levin. One of the things that was like, sometimes you just got to trade and make things go. And if you're going to like stand, like they're standing on principles and then there's just like being in the way. Mm-hmm. And these two are in the way. And these two are going to set this region back. And I mean, it's frustrating because for so long, transit advocates are like, vote Democrat, and these things will happen. And then Democrats don't deliver. Mm-hmm. And like, where is the governor on this? Like, where is Gretchen Whitmer calling these people up and saying, come on, like, get this in line?
Yeah.
There needs to be like, somebody described Governor Gretchen Whitmer as somebody who is soft at heart but sharp-elbowed. It's time for the sharp elbows on these two. Yeah.
Gretchen needs to start throwing bows. I wouldn't disagree with you there. And it is one of those things where, this is one of those inflection points where if we want to talk, if this doesn't go, this doesn't come to pass and people are talking about transit, all of our transit hawk listeners that I know we have, remember these names. Because this is who we'll come back and point to and say, we had a chance. Here's why it didn't happen. Don't blame Gretchen. Don't blame whoever you want to, think you don't, blame the big businesses.
Devendorf.
We have a chance. It's on the table.
Yeah. Devendorf, Wigla are in the way of progress right now. At least that's how I feel about it. It is frustrating because as somebody who's been covering transit for 25 years, there's always something. There's always some excuse. And no, nothing's ever perfect, but like real government requires compromise. And this is where I hate like the capture of the extreme left and the extreme right of our political system right now.
I agree with you, Jer. It's really, really frustrating. You can tell in both of our voices. I know we're going to have a lot of frustrated listeners, but there's still a chance to get this done. I'm going to remain optimistic.
All right. Well, that is it for today's show. I very much appreciate you. We had a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, thanks for letting me come in here and cool off a bit.
All right, with that, I am Jer Stays.
I'm Devin O'Reilly.
Thank you so much for listening to your Daily Detroit. Remember, we're supported by our members on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. And we're getting that Daily Detroit member Discord to go ahead and talk about some of these issues. And of course, the stories happening around town. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit. Talk tomorrow.